What's up, everyone? Welcome to the stream. It's your boy Endless. Today, we're going to talk about a few things. I'm going to start the stream off with some pettiness, naturally, just because I've been kind of ticked off about this since last night. So, I would like to address this. What up, Mike Flowers? Like I said, what up, Chocolate Fist? First and both. Rush Limbaugh died of Ligma. I'm glad you said that because this first bit of business I'd like to get out the way is actually directly related to some comments that were made on my profile. What up, Donald Atkins? We just might be talking about a certain streamer simping for Rush Limbaugh. We just might do that to lead off the stream because I know that person is probably not watching this because I was told that they had made a explicit decision not to watch or support my channel anymore. So yeah, we're gonna do that. After that, I want to talk about Triumph chairs because I know that I had basically done free PR for them last year with me just getting started in this whole streaming business and, finding offers for all kinds of bullshit sponsorships and whatnot in my inbox. And I happened to be somewhat taken in by the Triumph chairs bullshit. I didn't spend any money there. Thank goodness. I didn't convince anyone else to spend any money there, I hope. But I still want to talk about that. Yes, Fade, that same streamer. Also, I'm going to talk about the FBI because it's Black History Month. So I want to talk about how the FBI coordinated to assassinate black leadership and essentially completely eradicate black power. I'm going to be reading the Root article about that topic and just throwing some of my cursory knowledge out there and a little bit of apocrypha as well. But to start off with, let's get it popping with the petty shit. You know what I'm saying? So here we are. It's my Instagram. You might have seen it. If you don't, please follow me there. I'm at 904 followers now. I've lost a few followers, which isn't surprising because I'm literally a fucking communist, and a lot of these liberals don't seem to understand that or can't really handle that, especially my pro-black vibes, my black power vibes. That tends to scare people off, which I'm okay with. If you don't understand what black power is, you don't understand what Black Lives Matter is, you don't understand what anarchata is, then I don't want you here. If you don't understand what it is, but you would like to learn, then I'd be glad to educate you. That's what I made this platform for. But if you're going to stick your head in the sand and pretend like that is somehow racist, or you would like to convince yourself that I hate white people, then, you're an idiot. So, hey, what up, Justin? So let's get into this petty shit. You can see here, I made a funny haha post featuring this person, BOCXTOP's Twitter, and a funny meme they made about how Rush Limbaugh is burning in hell. I know that jokes are not really funny anymore if you have to explain them, but I defy you to find any person with more than 2 brain cells that doesn't find Rush Limbaugh burning in hell to be absolutely fucking hilarious. So, I'll put out a reading list. I've been just because I need to get back into my reading myself. So, I'll have a list of stuff that I'm reading. Thank you, John. I appreciate you. I hope all is well over there in the Philippines. What's up, Evelyn? What's up, Trashleys? So yeah, we're gonna get into this petty shit because it's really fucking dumb. Like really, really, really fucking dumb. Please do not do this. You will make yourself look stupid. You will alienate your black friends. Just don't fucking do this. Do not do this. I am begging you. You see me? I'm my hands over my heart. Also with this tea. Shout out to Critical Madness. Get your fits right with some sweet fucking grindcore and death metal boots. But shout out to Critical Madness. But please, please do not do this. Do not fucking do this, okay? So, this is a meme, obviously, about piece of shit Rush Limbaugh burning in hell. Rest in piss, you fucking piece of shit, Rush Limbaugh. And here we have someone who says, uncool, man. Because apparently, talking shit about people dying that if they were alive would have talked shit about you if you died, that's, it's uncool, apparently. And for those who don't understand why we talk shit about Rush Limbaugh, just Google the phrase Rush Limbaugh controversial quotes. Matter of fact, let's do that together. Here we go. Rush Limbaugh controversial quotes. I'll bring that over. And we got, let's see. Yahoo. Jesus, what am I, like 57? Okay, so let's just do people.com just to get this out of the way, just to set the tone. For those of you who might be in other countries or whatever who don't understand who this person is. That's his fucking big ugly mug. You know what I'm saying? He died of lung cancer. Dead does not absolve you from your actions while living. That is true. So the true irony about this is that he died of a disease that was actually completely preventable due to medicine coming from a country under an economic system, we'll say, that he did not particularly agree with. So with that said, let's just look at some quotes from Rush Limbaugh, the genius, the man, the myth, the legend. He began airing Barack the Magic Negro, a racist parody song about then Senator Barack Obama's popularity with many white voters in 2007. So just right off the bat, you probably shouldn't be using the word Negro. In John K. Wilson's book, The Most Dangerous Man in America, Rush Limbaugh's Assault on Reason, the host was quoted as saying this homophobic statement. When a gay person turns his back on you, it is anything but an insult. It's an invitation. Sheesh. Cuban lung cancer vaccine. Absolutely, Richard Turner. Road trip to go shit on his grave once we've all got the vax. Yeah, I'm down. Rush Limbaugh is one of my favorite gender-neutral bathrooms. Margaret Thatcher's grave is also one of my favorite gender-neutral bathrooms. So, in his Indeniable Truths, written as part of an article for the Sacramento Union in 1988, Limbaugh wrote, "Feminism was established so as to allow unattractive women access to the mainstream of society," which is a big fucking yikes, right? In a later updated version, he wrote, "The Earth's ecosystem is not fragile," which clearly it is because you got fucking clapped by fucking little pieces of paper, my friend. Women should not be allowed on juries where the accused is a stud, which I have no idea what that even is supposed to mean. And the Los Angeles riots were not caused by the Rodney King verdict. The Los Angeles riots were caused by rioters because black people just like to destroy things, right? Clearly. Thank you for the like, David. What up, Teabag Fairfield? Oh yeah, John, that's a part of growing up under the system that we grow up in. You're in the Philippines, so you're in the same American imperialistic system, right? There's mad cartoons that are meant to devalue and dehumanize indigenous and black people, right? So Tupac said that about racism? Yes. So on the Rush Limbaugh show in 2004, he said, "I think it's time to get rid of this whole National Basketball Association. Call it the TBA, the Thug Basketball Association, and stop calling them teams. Call them gangs." Wow. He must have been watching Allen Iverson play. As a young broadcaster in the 1970s, Limbaugh once told a black caller, "Take that bone out of your nose and call me back." Yikes. During the Rush Limbaugh show in 2013, he said, "If any race of people should not have guilt about slavery, it's Caucasians. The white race has probably had fewer slaves and for a briefer period of time than any other in the history of the world," which is, we could just go on and on and on. During the Rush Limbaugh show in 2017 regarding LGBTQ plus politicians, thank you, programmer Twitch, being elected to office, he said, "I guarantee there'd be some people in the Republican establishment who will now think, yeah, we need to do this. We need to provide a home. We need to provide a comforting atmosphere for the tranny community and the gay community." Sorry for the T slur. But those people are voting Democrat anyway. I don't even know if I'm comfortable even saying this bit out loud. It's just lots of anti-Asian slurs and stuff here. Nobody was translating, but that's the closest I can get, he said on his radio show while translating Chinese President Hu Jintao in 2011. Limbaugh called Georgetown law student Sandra Fluke a slut and a prostitute after she publicly advocated for universal contraception coverage, NPR reported in 2012. So clearly this guy is a fucking scumbag. You can just look in his face and tell that he has never made a woman orgasm ever in his fucking life, right? You can tell that all the sex he has had past age 33 is paid for with cash, right? Shout out to sex workers. Sex work is work, and goddamn is funneling this ugly piece of shit's hog a fucking monumental task, right? So anyway, we'll X out of that. Now that we know that backstory on Rush Limbaugh, which is why we would make fun of this piece of shit, right? We have Recon here saying that it's uncool to make fun of Rush Limbaugh. Why would that be? So let's view these replies, because this was a fucking dumb conversation. I didn't even read a lot of it last night, which is part of the reason I want to do it here. So he says, uncool, man. And at first, I'm cordial with Recon because I actually know Recon in real life. We met last year at my last job, working at the hotel that I was working at. And he said some cringy shit to me on the spot. I won't lie. Some shit about COVID. But he seemed nice enough, and my thing is, I like to meet people where they're at, so I don't ever immediately write people off as unreachable or pieces of shit or whatever, no matter what cringy shit they say to me in my first impressions of them, which might be a downfall of mine, right? That might be something I need to work on, but in the interest of good faith, I try to assume that at face value, we might not agree, but the end game in terms of politics and what each individual on this planet Earth wants, we all have the same desires. We all want food, shelter, maybe get our pee-pee played with a little bit, you know what I'm saying? We all want to feel safe and secure, right? So I try to reach people where they're at. I try to convince people actually socialism is what you want. All this Cold War propaganda that you've been force-fed all your life is not really cool. But what up, DC Metal Chris? And yes, Limbaugh made fun of many dead people on air anyways, including victims of AIDS. Absolutely. He had a segment where he used to play like a party horn and shit whenever he would read off a list of gay people that died of AIDS. He didn't, yeah, you said you told that to Recon, he blocked you immediately without ever responding. Oh, of course. That's what people like this do. What up, Ice King? What up, John? I try to stay real. I try my hardest to stay as real as I possibly can. It's hard to be real when you're interacting with me through this medium, you know what I mean? But I try to be as transparent and as authentic as I can possibly be, just speaking to you from a box on a screen, you know what I'm saying? Yeah, sorry, Ice King. But anyway, to get back to this conversation, like I said, I tried to be cool and gentle with Recon at first, but the shit that he said was so infuriating to me. And it's shit that I have to deal with on such a regular basis. It's shit that I feel like the average person should know is dumb. So I got frustrated. I'll admit I got frustrated. And you'll see. Anyway, so the meme is about making fun of Rush Limbaugh dying. Recon says, uncool, man. I tell him to read the bottom of the meme itself, because the meme itself specifically states, this man was basically the CEO of racism. Conservatives in my replies, y'all can stay mad, LMFAO. And Recon responds that with, he has surviving family. Would you condone people saying this if Don Lemon died? As if Don Lemon and Rush Limbaugh are even in the same ballpark, right? Are even on the same planet, in the same solar system when it comes to the disgusting shit, the overtly disgusting shit that Rush Limbaugh says on a regular basis. Well, said, because Rush Limbaugh's fucking dead, rest in piss. The disgusting shit Rush Limbaugh regularly said on his platform, right? Compared to things that Don Lemon has said or will say or says now that conservatives construe as anti-white or whatever because they, you know what I'm saying? They don't have properly functioning brains, they have brain disease. So I respond to that with, That one of the quotes that we read earlier from Rush Limbaugh. I think it's time to get rid of this whole National Basketball Association, call it the TBA, the Thug Basketball Association, and stop calling them teams, call them gangs. Rush Limbaugh. No, Don Lemon has never said anything anywhere near as disgusting intentionally that Kush Ligma, that's what his name is, Kush Ligma, would regularly say by accident, right? And I might have to, you said socialism is what you need? Yes, socialism is what you need. And we can have a conversation about that in a minute, but you think you don't want socialism, you want socialism. Trust me on this. And we can go back and forth about it, and you will be wrong. Socialism is what we need. Thank you for correcting me. So, anyway, to continue this conversation, Recon says, Don Lemon has damned whites for being white. If you're white, you're racist. Don Lemon. Which is, I have no idea how that's even remotely comparable to the last quote that I said from Rush Limbaugh, unless you're a conservative with brain disease and you think that racism ended in 1964 because Martin Luther King asked the government really nicely to let everybody vote and to make the government stop being racist. You know what I mean? Which is actually, he pulled one of the conservative. If you have your conservative bingo card, get it ready, because he goes on to say, my point is, let your hate in your heart go and be better. His fault isn't him and they read it, not a corpse. Darkness can't drive out darkness. Martin Luther King. So I respond to that with, speaking of Martin Luther King, he said something about white liberals you might want to Google whenever you get a minute. He wrote a letter or something. I don't know. And this is when I started to get a little bit snarky, because the one thing that I absolutely fucking despise is when people try to quote civil rights activists or civil rights leaders that I know they are unfamiliar with, right? If you were had even a cursory knowledge of any of Martin Luther King's work or any of his action, you would not be quoting him to excuse dumb shit like this. And they always want to use MLK, right? Exactly. You think complete socialism is not as good as seeing what happened in East Germany? I think a capitalist system with socialist parts in the most important areas is good, like we have it in right now. What do you think about that? I think that's wrong. You can look at, so the thing you have to remember about socialism is that capitalism will always try to come in to destroy everything. Case in point, the sanctions against Cuba, sanctions against North Korea, which is not, I cannot stress enough how I am not a shill for any of these countries, right? I'm just saying that it seems like, to me, from the outside looking in, when you look at things like the literacy rate of these countries, when you look at things like healthcare coverage in these countries, when you look at things like the level of poverty in these countries, it seems like, to me, socialism is more effective at lifting people up from abject poverty and keeping the floor of human experience high and above torturous conditions than capitalism, where we have things like what's going on in Texas right now, right? And if you look at things like the Swedish or the Scandinavian model of what is called socialism, but it really is just government, it's just state capitalism. It's literally sustained by the exorbitantly high taxes that the citizens have to pay in those countries, but they also participate in imperialism and ransacking the global south, which is something I'll also get into in a minute. I have a video that we can watch together. And Berlin is not the only example of socialism. So we can watch a video. Programmer, I hope you stay in here, because I'm going to watch a video after this that will address a lot of the points you have, because they're valid points. You know what I'm saying? You're not by any means the first person to throw those points out there, and I am not by any means the first person to refute those points. So we're going to take a look at something after this. But right now, I just want to finish up this little petty shit so I can get it out of the way on the stream, so we can get to serious stuff, right? So then Recon says, Malcolm X warned of white liberals acting as friends to black. We can go all day. As a friend, I'm telling you that you're better than this hate you're showing. It isn't about who died. As I said, his family can read these things, and they weren't him, and they don't deserve your hate or what you or these people are saying. Everyone has haters, and you wouldn't want to see their shit if your loved one died. He's dead. He can't see it, and celebrating any death is in poor taste. That very, very, very last bit, I will agree with. Celebrating any death is in poor taste. I can like 50% agree with that, right? But the thing is if your family or loved ones truly cared about you and they truly cared about the world at large, they would do everything in their power to prevent you from being a piece of shit. And if they support you, despite the fact that they know you're a piece of shit, they are complicit in your shittiness, right? So they can eat that. They can see all the shit that gets talked about their loved one that they knew was a piece of shit when he was alive, and they can accept it because they condoned it by their complacency, right? And programmer, why are you just like married to Germany? Are you convinced that Germany is the only ever socialist nation in the world? Like, I don't get why. Like, you're being given examples of actual functioning socialist societies, and you're like, but Germany though, and I don't get it. And it makes me wonder if you're actually engaging in this conversation in good faith. I'm gonna still show this video though, because I feel like it's gonna be informative for the other people in here. So wait around for me to finish up this goofy recon shit, and then we can watch some socialism stuff, and then I'll get into the Triumph chair. I'll get into the FBI stuff first, and then at the end I'll get into the Triumph chair stuff, because the Triumph chair stuff is pretty quick, and we won't have to spend a lot of time. Anyway, I said, would you be comfortable saying that about Adolf Hitler? Or maybe, just maybe, there are people so heinous that, yeah, the world is probably better off without them. Kush Ligma's family can gargle my sack. That's how I feel. And he said, why do you all go to Hitler every time? Hitler was a genocidal maniac. Rush was an old, misguided radio host. No comparison. And if you think that this person was misguided or old when there's literally pictures of him in his 30s, 40s, whatever, and if you think that he wasn't very, very fucking intentional with the shit that he said, you are an idiot. You are a dupe. You are a rube. You are a mark. I have a bridge to sell you. And I also have some gold and silver to sell you, and some Dogecoin and some fucking GameStop stock to sell you. So would you be okay with George Floyd or Breonna Taylor's shit talk? And this is where I got pissed off, because now you're literally comparing a person as fucking disgusting as Rush Limbaugh with people like George Floyd and Breonna Taylor, which is just, you have to be a fucking idiot, right? And that's me assuming the best possible scenario, right? Because I don't want to believe he's a racist piece of shit, right? I don't want to believe that he genuinely believes that talking shit about Rush Limbaugh is the same as talking shit about George Floyd or Breonna Taylor, right? I want to believe he's just a fucking idiot, right? So he said, no, you wouldn't. Regardless, why do you care about what anyone else does? I told you that you're better than this. I know it in my heart you are. I get you're angry about the current political climate, but come on, man. And that's another issue, that if you think that myself or that black people are just angry because of the current political climate and that we don't experience white supremacy, racism, fucking, if you think that these types of issues are not things that we have to deal with and fight for every single fucking day of our lives, you are an idiot, okay? Either that or you're trying to minimize it, you're a liar and you're a racist. But I don't think he's a liar. I don't think he's a racist. I think he's just a fucking dumbass, okay? So I respond with, how many people did Hitler personally kill? Or was his role just to inflame other hateful people with his rhetoric? Okay? And you got to be some kind of fucking moron to compare Rush Limbaugh to Breonna Taylor. And this is where the gloves came off, right? He said, 2 dead people were surviving failure. He meant surviving families, but he said surviving failures who don't deserve to hear shit about their loved ones. Solid comparison. It's not a solid comparison. Also, don't call me that. I've done a lot for you, and I'm not defending anything he said. I'm on a moral point here. And I'm just going to say this right now. If you do things for me just so that you can bring them up later, don't do shit for me. Right? And I've already said at the top of this video before I got into this that this is a person who has already stated behind the scenes to and I might be throwing them under the bus here, but I don't really care because this is fucking ridiculous. But this is someone that's already said behind the scenes, away from my level of awareness, that they weren't going to support me anymore. They weren't going to raid me, they weren't going to host me, they weren't going to come to my streams. So, you've done a lot for me, but you've also done your best to try to fucking pull the rug out from under me. So don't fucking play this game where you think that I owe you, because You've done the bare ass minimum and gave me one fucking raid with 100 people like 8 months ago, right? So I say, don't say dumb shit if you don't want to be called fucking dumb, which is fairly reasonable to me, right? I said, if the Hitler comparison makes you uncomfortable, then how about David Duke? Does that guy deserve respect when he dies or what? Which completely innocent black victim of police brutality would you equate him with? And in a clown emoji, because obviously. He said, you've got one last time to insult me. I've been nothing but respectful to you since the day I met you. And make no mistake, this shit is not respect, right? When you're coming on here to be like, hey, this racist piece of shit that's dead now, hey, don't make fun of him. That is not respecting me, right? You are not respecting me individually, and you are not respecting me as far as the class that I belong to, right? So he says, everyone deserves respect in death. How'd you like it if David Duke called your grandmother all kinds of shit if she hadn't made it through her illness because she was black? And that's when I stopped reading any of the rest of his comments, because that right there, I had to maybe wonder if he like didn't know who David Duke is or what he did. To make a comment like that is just utterly asinine to me. So, yeah, well, because you dislike someone's opinion doesn't garner disrespect in death. You respect the surviving family members, of which could be on your side politically, which they are not. And if you think that you have anything in common with a member of the fucking Ku Klux Klan, then please exit my stream post haste, right? You're so angry you can't see more than 6 inches in front of your face, and you're trash talking a guy who supported you all because he said you're better than how you're acting. I don't know if you're on the booze tonight, which is fucked up to say because he knows that I don't drink and have been sober for 3 years now. He's the one that gets drunk. So we had a bad day, but I'm going to ask you one last time to scale it back with me. I'm not some troll. I was, or so I thought, your friend. And I cannot stress enough that if you don't understand Black Power, if you don't understand Black Lives Matter, if you don't understand the Black struggle, and you don't understand why I would make fun of someone like Rush Limbaugh after his death, you are not my friend. I don't want you as a friend. I don't want you as an acquaintance. I don't want you to support me, even though we've already established that this person was going out of their way to sandbag me, right? Stay the fuck away from me, right? Dog, do you not know who David Duke is? This is some of the dumbest shit I've ever read. I'm only like one sentence in. I'm not reading the rest of this fuckery. To which he responded, David Duke is the Grand Wizard of the KKK, not his family doing. He has kids who disavow him. You want to be emotional and illogical, Kevin, that's fine. But you keep this shit up, you'll lose a lot of friends, man. I hope you reconsider your attitude towards me trying to tell you deep down under your anger you're better than this. But you keep on this path, you won't have much except your hate to keep you warm. Which is, I don't know if he noticed my recent explosion in follower count, but they're not from his audience. And I think he realized that today when some of the people woke up and saw the shit that he posted today and commented on it. So I just started to get snarky and say, emotional and illogical, says the guy who's in my comments mauling because I'm talking shit about a dead dude who 100% would have celebrated my death just based on all the dead people who celebrated on his show. Thank you, Brittany, for the stars. I'd tell you to say all this goofy shit to Rush Limbaugh, but he's not listening to much of anything anymore down in that casket. He just says, okay, man. A lot of people responded to those comments, and he probably blocked them all because he wants to stick his head in the sand and be a radical centrist, right? And just believe that the KKK is the same as the Black Panthers. Saying Black Power is the same as saying white power. Black Lives Matter is the same as saying white lives matter because all lives matter, right? And everything is perfectly even, and black people have all the same opportunities and experience in America as white people. And I'm a fucking moron. And and if he watches this, I promise you, I do not give a fuck whatever you think you can do to sandbag my channel. Anything more than what you've already been doing, my guy. And the fact that you didn't think I would find out about it, the fact that you would even do that in the first place is fucking petty as shit. When I have supported you and come to your channel and even stream with you while you say dumbass transphobic shit, you're arguing with my fucking chatters in my chat. You know what I'm saying? Talking shit to my chatters in my chat. And I'm just chilling there eating it like, guys, let's everybody calm down because my dumbass wants everybody to be cool and get along, right? you need to sit your fucking monkey ass down and seriously reconsider why you continue to have this revolving door social circle in your life, right? You need to seriously really fucking consider what shit that you might be doing or what ideas that you have in your fucking head that might be pushing the people around you away. And on that note, I'm going to end this dumb shit because I feel like I've already spent too much time on it. I want to get to the what programmer YouTube Twitch was talking about. We're going to watch a really quick video. Let me X out of this. Let me see if I can find that video. I cannot. I think I X out of it like a dumbass. So let me just go to my YouTube history. Give me one moment, ladies and gents. Let me go back here. How's everybody doing? The caucastic ineptitude, yeah. Who is that dumb motherfucker? That's someone, so, pro gamer, yes. Not programmer, I'm sorry, pro gamer. So, that person, Recon, was someone, like I said, I met them in real life at my last job. And they seem, like I said, I give everyone a chance. And even at the end of the day, if you're a fucking chud, you're a fucking moron, I still want you to have healthcare. I still want you to have free and unlimited access to food, shelter, etc., etc. Brittany Schultheus, have you read anything? I'm sorry if I'm butchering your last name. Please correct me if I am. Have you read anything about the Coca-Cola diversity training? White folks bid mad at Coke? Yes, I am absolutely... hilariously, that's hilarious to me. I might watch something about that after we get done with this. So let me, without further ado, because I should have been looking for it and doing two things at once, but I apparently can't walk and chew gum at the same time. Let me go to my YouTube history. And first, before I do that, let me just do something. I'm going to play something for you all that I hope you understand and I hope reaches you deep in your heart, because this is important to me and I know it's important to a lot of people. So turn your volume up if you haven't, because this is important. Here we go. I'm gonna play it. All right, so with that done, all right, so seriously though, let me find this video that I was just watching about socialism. Okay, so here we go.
Hi there. We've all heard the usual...
Pro gamer YouTube. You still here? What were you? Let me know if you're still in chat because we're gonna watch this video together, and I want you to let me know if you understand this video. It seems like you understand capitalism is garbage, but okay, you're here, cool. So I'm gonna start playing it.
Hi there. We've all heard the usual trope. Taxation is theft. Why should the state come in and take my hard-earned money to do such and such? There is an argument there, sure. But what if I told you you're already being robbed on the daily by something bigger, much, much bigger than...
Oh my goodness, I'm stupid. I'm gonna start the video over.
We've all heard the usual trope. Taxation is theft. Why should the state come in and take my hard-earned money to do such and such? There is an argument there, sure. But what if I told you you're already being robbed on the daily by something bigger, much, much bigger than just taxation? Let's start by clarifying the argument a little. In the grand scheme of things, taxes are used in capitalist states as a sort of social fund derived from the population to supposedly serve their needs by maintaining roads, schools, hospitals, paying the wages of public employees, etc. In practice, this can vary from providing a decent social safety net, like in the Scandinavian countries, off the backs of imperialized countries usually, to enriching the already richest group of people in the country and funding never-ending military campaigns and wars, like in the US. Generally, though, it can be considered that taxes serve a somewhat useful social function. Remember the other form of theft, that much greater one that I just mentioned? The one that you're subject to every single day, which we barely even perceive. Let's discuss that then. What I'm specifically talking about is something called the extraction of surplus value. Now, what does that mean exactly? Under capitalism, profit has to come from somewhere. You're hired to work at a firm or office or enterprise because you make the boss money, simple as. Otherwise, they'd have no incentive to hire you. Now, there are various streams and methods, but the kernel of capitalist profit is the extraction of surplus value. You go to work for, say, 8 hours a day. Out of those 8 hours, you produce, let's say, $80 of output. Your wage at the end of the day, though, is only $40. What's going on here? Why are you getting only half of what you produced? You're the one who did all the work, so where did the other $40 go? Simple. To the capitalist. For 8 hours of work, you only got paid for 4. The other 4 hours you worked, you'll never see the fruit of. Now, people can try to play this any way they want. It's the capitalist's right because they risked. A nonsensical argument, as modern capitalist governments guarantee large businesses, and those capitalists that started them by vast majority came from already very wealthy and highly connected families. Even if we take the risk argument at face value, well, it goes both ways. The workers risk, and risk far more for working at that particular enterprise than the capitalist ever does. I can assure you, you risk more driving to work than they have starting and maintaining that business. With that silly argument dealt with, this isn't the full story. Out of those $40 you're paid, the capitalist state steps in and takes their cut. Let's say the tax rate is 25%. That means your $40 become $30. You worked 8 hours and only got back 3 hours worth. But the amount lost to tax, $10, is far less than the amount lost to the capitalist, $40. So why are people more upset about the taxation rate? Simple. Because people actually see the taxation rate. On your wage statements, be they bank statements or otherwise, a tax deduction from your wage is directly seen. You directly experience and visualize your hard-earned money leaving you and going to a social fund that you can only hope will actually benefit you eventually, which many times in practice ends up helping those same capitalists that stole your surplus too.
Facts.
With surplus extraction, however, you don't ever directly visualize that, and money relations being our social expression of worth, rather than, say, labor outputs, obfuscate this theft even more. Imagine if everything was honest and transparent and out in the open. At the end of a day's work, you see your wage statement, which goes as follows. Full worth, $80. Surplus extracted for the capitalist, $40. Tax deduction to the capitalist state, $10. Total sum left, $30. All of a sudden, people would start demanding their full right, or at least a bigger chunk of it, no? To say all that in plain English, tax is considered to be theft because you see your full salary come in and then a portion deducted. Surplus extraction is the true and grander theft, but you don't see any portion deducted, and hence are never conscious of what is truly going on. Imagine if you did see what really happened. 100% is how much you make in value, 50% is the surplus extracted, and from whatever's left of your salary, another 25% is taken as tax. This is all an obvious oversimplification to drive a point home. People are usually paid monthly, not at the end of a day. Surplus extraction occurs at differing rates at differing enterprises and fields. And right now, we're not discussing finance capital and other forms for simplicity's sake. The point still stands though. Overall, you produce more output than you ever get back. And that output goes to a capitalist that uses it to replenish capital stock, to invest in the circuit of capital, and to develop their business further. Or he spends it on fancy booze and yachts. It really depends. The capitalist gets taxed too, I hear someone yell.
Nope.
Well, yeah, true. But the taxation rates are way lower than yours or mine, and a lot of the time they get away with paying no taxes scot-free.
Facts.
They have power within the capitalist state to manage their affairs as they wish. That's why Amazon not only paid no taxes recently, but actually received tax money. Yes,
same with Activision.
Your hard-earned income going to subsidize the life of the wealthiest man on earth and his business. How lovely. Imagine if we had a different system.
So let me because I cannot stress that point enough. I need to reiterate that. The richest man on earth, got government welfare that came from your tax money, from your hard-earned dollars.
Imagine if instead of a class of net exploiters that exist parasitically off of the labor of working people, we had a society oriented towards the development of everyone equally. We can say, hypothetically, that the system had a different setup of the enterprise, office, or workplace, wherever you work. Instead of, like under capitalism, where you have no say in your work and have half or more of your surplus stolen, you have a democratic enterprise, one in which you and all your fellow coworkers democratically decide how and what to produce, or whatever other form of economic output your workplace generates. Where you democratically decide on the division of your labor, not of a minority of output going to you in a disappointing wage and the majority going to a capitalist, but instead where you divide your work as output that goes to you for your needs and personal development, and output that goes to a direct social fund that doesn't end up as just another avenue for the mega ultra rich to derive more wealth from. In plain words, work for oneself and work for society. Instead of working 4 hours for yourself and 4 hours for a capitalist, everyone would work 4 hours for themselves and 4 hours for social development, generally. Logically, since a certain set amount of output is designated for social development in a common fund, there would then also be no need for taxes, right? Exactly right. All this sounds so familiar. Oh wait, that's because this was something that happened. This is the actual practice of socialism. Countries like Cuba, the USSR, the GDR, etc. had this, or a similar setup to differing degrees, where social output was controlled by the working people so that the surplus they produced didn't go to enrich a small minority of unaccountable capitalists, but instead went to the direct maintenance of society. That's why, in socialist countries like those just named, there was high-quality free education and healthcare at all levels, despite said countries being far poorer than the Evergrande US of A, which can't even house its whole population, let alone develop healthcare and education for them. Full employment, no homelessness, education and healthcare for all, the cultural and social development of all members of society, not off the backs of third world colonies and the exploitation of the poorest on earth, but through their own effort. These aren't utopian ideas because all this has already been done before in many countries. Those who hand-wave, claiming this is starry-eyed utopianism, only do so in a transparent attempt to distract you from these truths. Not only is this possible, it's already been done. Socialism directly serves your interests, and all the rest that you've heard against it is only a performance hoping to make you complacent with the far greater theft that occurs to you every minute of every day you work under capitalism. One thing left unmentioned is that, under capitalism, the $30 you're left with are supposed to go and cover your healthcare needs, your educational fees, your groceries, rent, insurance, 100 other expenses. Under socialism, there is no rent as housing is free. Necessary consumer goods, food, hygiene products, baby products, etc. are heavily subsidized. You don't need insurance as maintenance is covered by the state, and you have no educational healthcare fees as those are covered too. In the end, this means that the vast majority of the population is materially better off under socialism than under capitalism, and this has been proven not only by the research done into the matter, but also by contemporary research like that in the UK done by Cockshot. Hold on though, aren't socialist countries funded by extremely high taxes? No, not at all, actually. This is a bad caricature of what socialists actually want and have done, and is repeated endlessly by right-wing pundits who either know better and are lying, or simply don't know better out of ignorance. You pick which. Sweden, Norway, etc. aren't socialist countries. They are the ones that fund their state programs through taxation, unequal exchange, and they're taking part in imperialism of the global south. I've made a video on this here. Historically, actual socialist countries only had a small ceremonial tax on select things, like property, for example, in the USSR. Other socialist countries had zero tax completely, like Albania at different points. Some countries had limited income taxes set, again to ceremonial amounts, percentages as low as 3, 4, or 5%, or value-added tax to purchased goods. Generally though, and on the whole, socialist countries had far, far lower taxation at practically all levels than even relatively light taxing capitalist countries. Enough talk about historical socialism though, what about now? What modern developments has science brought us? Well, quite a lot, actually. With the advent of instant communication, the internet, and widespread use of smartphones, now frequent social referendums on the spending of the social surplus produced in those other 4 hours can be democratically voted on a society-wide basis. You directly could vote on how much percentage should be used for what end, and fancy math determines mean levels according to the democratic consensus. Paul Cockshot has developed concepts of this in his talks presented in Hanoi, which can be seen on YouTube. You wonder why this isn't already a thing with taxes rather than social surplus, which doesn't exist in developed capitalist countries. The answer is painfully obvious. If citizens were allowed to decide where their taxes go, all of a sudden the rich start seeing their bank accounts looking dry, and the military budget contracts by orders of magnitude, and massive corporations see their subsidies taken away. No wonder it isn't a thing. You stand to gain everything, and the ruling class stands to lose a lot. If you're interested in learning more, take a look at my previous videos on why exactly capitalism is an untenable system, as well as why socialism is superior. I include book recommendations and all that.
So there's that. So that's why a lot of the black struggle movement, the civil rights leaders that existed were socialists or communists. Not many people know this because this is history that is intentionally hidden from lots of people. For example, did you all know that Rosa Parks' husband was a card-carrying member of the American Communist Party? Let's Google this. Let me see if I can find this. I can't, but hold on. I thought this was going to be a lot quicker and easier. Oh, here we go. The Rebellious Life of Miss Rosa Parks. I don't even have to click the link. Finally, Mrs. Parks and her husband Raymond had worked politically with communist and left-leaning organizations, especially around the Scottsboro Boys case. Mrs. Parks was friends with some white radicals, especially Virginia Durr, who had arranged for her to be invited to the Highlander Folk School. Right? So, although never a member of the Communist Party, she attended meetings with her husband. Right? So, if you look at the Black Panther Party for Self-Defense, right? The Black Panthers, you already know that what you were told about the Black Panthers when you were young was a lie. That the Black Panthers was just a bunch of violent black people in leather jackets and berets that just wanted to fucking bully white people. They hated white people, right? That was a lie, right? We saw, if a lot of you have seen the movie Judas and the Black Messiah, I have not seen that movie yet, because I know that it's going to be a very, very sanitized version of the history of the events surrounding that particular event in time. The Black Panther Party, they were Maoists. What up, Jerson? The Black Panther Party for Self-Defense were Maoists, right? And I got a picture to show you guys on that note as well. Give me 2 seconds. Sorry. I'm trying to do this off screen. Here we go. Mao's The Black Panthers plus the Little Red Book. Mao's Little Red Book held up at a Black Panther Power Free Huey rally. San Francisco, May 1969. The Little Red Book by Mao Zedong was studied by the Black Panther Party as a manifesto for the Black Panther Party's ideas of socialism. The Black Panther Party carried out social programs in poor communities, including free health clinics, ambulance services, legal counsel, and prison busing. This was inspired by Mao's call to serve the people. And this is why you had free breakfast at schools, right? Because it was a program that the Black Panther parties came up with, the breakfast program that was then co-opted by the government. Definitely sanitize Richard Turner, I can only imagine. I also want to take this moment to shout y'all out. Shout out to Richard Turner, shout out to Teabag Fairfield. Happy Black History Month, y'all. It's our month still. We still got 3 days left, so we're going to keep it pushing. And on that note, I would like to read this article from The Root now that we have a backstory, now that we know that a lot of the radical pro-black abolition movement, no matter how far back in history you want to go, a lot of it was informed by socialist or communist ideas. We just saw, a lot of the later, or the 60s civil rights movement, the black radicals were influenced by Maoist ideals, right? So, this Root article is called By Means Fair or Foul, America's Conspiracy to Assassinate Black Power. And again, I must reiterate that black power does not mean black supremacy the same way that white power does, right? Black power just means to uplift and to consolidate the black struggle against the system of white supremacy, first and foremost, obviously. But if you zoom out, then what you realize, what you're really struggling against, just like other people in the same class, is capitalism. That's why they assassinated Fred Hampton, is because he was trying to unify all of the members of the radicals in that particular class. He was trying to unify with the white radicals, with the Latino radicals, all occupying the same class in the lower class, right? So the first sentence in this article is, or this editorial, I guess it is that there is no such thing as quote unquote white people. While the concept of race has always been an unscientific axiom, whiteness is the most mutable of the social constructs we call race. Whiteness is a fence with portable borders defined more aptly by who is not inside. The Irish were not considered white. Neither were the Italians or Eastern Europeans, until they were allowed to jump the fence and assume all the powers and protection of whiteness. Throughout history, there were groups who peered inside the fence and decided that they didn't want the things inside the fence. And in America, for some reason, this presented a threat to whiteness. After all, what good is a fence if the people on the outside have more power than the gatekeepers? The fence is what gives them power. A recent revelation from a former NYPD officer connected with Malcolm X's assassination, along with the movies Judas and the Black Messiah and One Night in Miami, has engendered new interest in the federal government's counterintelligence program, also known as COINTELPRO. Some of you might have heard of that before. And the assassinations of Fred Hampton and Malcolm X. But these political assassinations were not separate incidents. They were part of a singular plan by a singular entity. FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover's Bureau surveilled nearly every significant black movement in modern history. Each of these leaders were neutralized by the FBI for their pursuit of the same goal. If you play Call of Duty, you know what the word neutralize means, right? So we all know that. We all understand that. Black power. They were trying to neutralize black power. The plot to eradicate the threat of black power is documented by evidence, testimony, and government documents from federal, state, and local agencies. So this wasn't just an FBI thing. This was the FBI coordinating with the state, counties, and cities, right? So it is a tale that involves the Ku Klux Klan, one of the most powerful law enforcement agencies on the planet, and one of the greatest rappers of all time. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is the true history of a conspiracy about a conspiracy theory. And there's a quote here. The white men of the South were aroused by the mere instinct of self-preservation to rid themselves by fair means or foul of the intolerable burden of government sustained by the votes of ignorant Negroes. History of the American People, Volume 5. Johnny got the job. It was 1913, and Johnny, a recent high school graduate, secured his first employment assignment at the Library of Congress, a few blocks away from his childhood home. The position was also within walking distance from George Washington University, where Johnny had just enrolled as a freshman. Because of the stutter that earned him the nickname Speed, prospective employers had rebuffed Johnny, but this new gig didn't require face-to-face communication. Instead, Johnny mostly sat at a desk, typing memos and learning the library's filing system. By the time Johnny earned his Master of Laws in 1917, he had become one of the federal institution's most diligent workers, impressing supervisors with his work ethic and his expertise in cataloging the institution's massive book collections. Speed would later say that his time at the Library of Congress trained him in the value of collating material and gave him an excellent foundation for assembling information and evidence. After he graduated, Speed took his talents to his new gig at the Bureau of Investigation's War Emergency Division, where he earned $900 a year. Speed's boss was Tom Wilson, a virulent segregationist who rose from academia's ranks to become one of the country's most respected white supremacists. In his previous job as president of a prestigious Princeton University, Wilson successfully ensured that his beloved institution would be the last Ivy League school to admit black students. He had famously written one of the more popular American history books. In it, he argued that the racial terrorism of Reconstruction was caused by white supremacists' instinct of self-preservation to rid themselves by fair means or foul of the intolerable burden of government sustained by the votes of ignorant Negroes. Wilson got his new position by appealing to these white supremacist tendencies, but he was progressive in one aspect, however. In 1915, Wilson invited Speed's frat brother Thomas Dixon Jr., the writer and great-granddaddy of white nationalism, to the office to screen his adaptation of the novel, The Klansman. Wilson said it was like writing history with lightning, and the movie is generally considered the first Hollywood blockbuster. Aside from Speed's college fraternity friend, perhaps nothing is more responsible for the Ku Klux Klan's resurgence in the 1920s than when Speed's boss organized a movie night for one of the most racist films in the history of American cinema. The theatrical debut for Birth of a Nation took place at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue in Washington, D.C., when Thomas Woodrow Wilson, the 28th President of the United States, held the White House's first movie screening. By 1917, the U.S. was embroiled in the Great War, and Congress had just authorized the Espionage Act. The legislation gave the Bureau of Investigation the authority to investigate, interrogate, and surveil Americans suspected of disloyalty, right? So, anyone familiar with the Patriot Act? Sounds familiar, right? In a few months, Speed had compiled thousands of files on American citizens who were suspected of being subversive. His knack for meticulously collecting and storing information landed him a promotion to head of the Radical Division, the Bureau's new General Intelligence Division. But in 1918, a few months after Speed's promotion, the First World War ended. At 24 years old, he was in charge of the most advanced non-military intelligence operation in the known universe. But with no war to build a reputation on, no formal experience in policing or detective work, and surrounded by war veterans and Secret Service officers, Speed found a way to keep his status as a rising star in the Bureau of Investigation by casting the response to white supremacy as subversive. Soon, Speed began to adopt a more dignified persona and stopped using the nickname. Even the name John was too commonplace, so he condensed it down to an initial. What started with a job in the Library of Congress eventually evolved into a grand conspiracy that is still being uncovered to this day. Speed would use his knack to collect, process, and catalog detailed bits of information to stop every movement for freedom and equality for the next half-century. In late 1921, the General Intelligence Division was moved to the Department of Justice, and on May 10, 1924, Attorney General Harlan Fiske Stone appointed John Edgar Speed Hoover as acting director of the new Federal Bureau of Investigation. In January 1922, aided by an informant, federal agents arrested Marcus Josiah Garvey for mail fraud. Although he was the most influential black leader of his time, Garvey did not present a threat to white power. But by advocating for black economic and political independence, his mere presence threatened the power dynamics of this country. Garvey was convicted with no evidence on the testimony of a paid informant. By the end of 1925, Garvey was serving a 3-year sentence in the Atlanta Federal Penitentiary. Upon his release, Garvey was deported from the United States. Marcus Garvey would not be the last black revolutionary targeted by the American government for building a coalition of black power. And if you don't know the name Marcus Garvey, definitely look that up. Definitely read about Marcus Garvey because he is an important black figure. How do they be knowing? On Wednesday, July 12, 1961, 4 defendants in a Little Rock, Arkansas courtroom had a decision to make. Standing in front of Municipal Court Judge Quinn Glover was 27-year-old pastor John C. Raines, 23-year-old teacher Bliss Ann Malone, 23-year-old housewife Janet Reinitz, and 30-year-old minister Elton Cox. After lecturing the group for their assault on the city, Glover presented the 4 Freedom Riders with a proposition that seemed as if it was ripped from the pages of a dime store novel. They could pay a fine of $500 and spend 6 months in jail, or the local police could escort them to the edge of town. Raines and Reinitz were white, while Malone and Cox were black. They had been charged with breach of peace for participating in the Freedom Rides, the Congress of Racial Equality's effort to test the Supreme Court ban against racial discrimination and interstate transportation. Glover's offer seemed like a deal. The defendants had already been assaulted by a crowd of more than 300 people and spent 2 nights in jail. The group discussed the offer, and Raines informed officials that he, along with the others, had made a decision. They chose jail. Jail and deportation is how they did your TO2? Yeah, that's how they do any subversive non-white figures, right? Or really white figures who are a threat to whiteness, right? So, the fines and sentences were ultimately suspended after an apology to the city, but the experience left a bitter taste in Raines' mouth. The story was one of the biggest in the country that day, along with the story about roving Negro youth gangs attacking innocent white residents in Chicago. And that should sound familiar. If you have anyone in your life that complains about black kids playing the knockout game, quote unquote, there ain't nothing new under the sun. Raines joined the Freedom Rides after reading about how Klansmen attacked, beat, and firebombed Freedom Riders in Anniston and Birmingham, Alabama. He was told to expect resistance from Klansmen, even though he wondered how the white supremacists always seemed to pick the right bus. As one fellow Freedom Rider, some guy named John Lewis, asked, "How do they be knowing?" 2 years later, on September 15th, 1963, Raines lent his support after Klansmen bombed Birmingham's 16th Street Baptist Church, killing 14-year-olds Addie Mae Collins, Cynthia Wesley, and Carol Robinson, along with 11-year-old Carol Denise McNair. And firebombing black churches is also not something that is relegated to the past. The Wolves of Inland have a member who firebombed a black church very recently, within the last decade. So, on June 13th, 1964, Raines and hundreds of civil rights activists converged on Oxford, Ohio to train for the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee's Freedom Summer. 6 of them would be murdered that summer, including James Chaney, Andrew Goodman, and Michael Schwerner. 35 more would be shot, 80 would be beaten, and more than 1,000 would be arrested. Almost 90% who showed up for the registration were white. In 1965, Raines participated in the Selma to Montgomery March, when the Klan murder of Viola Liuzzo made her the first and only white woman killed in the civil rights movement, unless you count Jean Seberg. Both white women were accused of having relations with black men, so that's also a recurring theme, this idea of miscegenation, right? Simultaneously, you have black men who are running around snatching up, raping all these white women. But if you're a white woman who is even accused of consensually having relations with a black man, that's a death sentence, right? By 1971, Raines had settled down, married, had children, and was a professor at Temple University. Raines rarely talked about his time in the civil rights movement because he was always ended up sounding like a conspiracy nut. Raines had come to believe the FBI and the CIA were using dirty tricks to derail the movement for equality and were responsible for the deaths of black leaders. John Raines was going to tear down the fence. Handwriting on the wall. On March 8th, 1964, my father's birthday, Malcolm X announced he was leaving the Nation of Islam to start his own black nationalist movement. In April, he left for a pilgrimage to Mecca, and on May 8th, the New York Times published a letter explaining Malcolm's new position. T.O. means uncle, Comfy Crown. Many white women would say it wasn't consensual when they were found out. Yeah, that's also a thing. Emmett Till, even though we later found out that the woman that got Emmett Till killed was never even touched by Emmett Till. But anyway, not to get off of this editorial here. If white Americans would accept the religion of Islam, if they would accept the oneness of God, Allah, then they could also sincerely accept the oneness of man, and they would cease to measure others always in terms of their differences in color. I do believe that whites of the younger generation in the colleges and universities, through their own young, less hampered intellect, will see the handwriting on the wall and turn for spiritual salvation to the religion of Islam and force the older generation of American whites to turn with them. 1 month later, on April 17th, the NYPD's Bureau of Special Services and Investigations hired a black undercover agent to infiltrate black organizations. Days before Malcolm X's 1965 assassination, journalists across the country reported a crazy story about a small group of Negro extremists and their plan to blow up the Statue of Liberty, the Liberty Bell, and the crazy plotters. Time reports, according to charges brought by New York police last week, the mastermind, if that is the word, of the plot was one Robert Steele Collier, 28, a library clerk who visited Cuba early last summer and returned to organize the Black Liberation Front. Also charged were Walter Augustus Bowe, 32, a one-time trumpet player who used to lead a combo called the Angry Black Men, but more recently had worked as a $50 a week New York settlement house youth leader, and boyish-looking Khalil Sultan Syed, 22, son of an Arab-descended Negro who runs a Brooklyn delicatessen. And then there was Husky Raymond A. Wood, 31, a former Chester, South Carolina high school football star. The plotters were seeking to create a spectacular sort of disturbance that would dramatize the troubles of U.S. Negroes. Bowe, Syed, and Wood started scouting around last month, visited the 300-foot-high, 225-ton Statue of Liberty in New York Harbor. Obviously, blowing up the Statue of Liberty would be as spectacular an event as anyone could wish for. Excuse me. According to the letter revealed by attorney Ben Crump on Saturday, Bowe and Syed were key players in Malcolm X's crowd control security detail. On February 21st, 1965, 3 armed men charged the Audubon Ballroom stage and released a barrage of bullets from 2 semi-automatic handguns and a sawed-off shotgun. Police at the scene recounted that one of the Statue of Liberty bombers, Raymond A. Woods, was in the crowd. Woods quickly left the scene and the iconic leader El-Hajj Malik El-Shabazz, Malcolm X, was rushed to a nearby hospital. Raymond A. Wood was an undercover police officer. Malcolm X was dead. On November 18, 1964, FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover held a press conference shortly after an international committee recognized an American patriot for fighting outside the fence. Pro Gamer? I thought it was Programmer. I'm sorry, Pro Gamer, YouTube, Twitch. A year earlier, Hoover exonerated the award recipient as a communist and the most notorious liar in the country. A few days after the presser, FBI agent William Sullivan penned an anonymous letter imploring the communist liar to commit suicide. Sullivan dispatched an agent to Miami to mail the letter to the youngest man to ever win the Nobel Peace Prize, Reverend Martin Luther King, Jr. On April 4th, 1968, a lone rifleman fired a bullet into Martin Luther King Jr.'s face as he stood on the balcony of the Lorraine Motel in Memphis, Tennessee. Trusted King photographer Ernest Withers arrived on the scene. While everyone present was too disturbed by the assassination to function, Withers calmly developed the now iconic photographs of the death of King. Ernest Withers was an FBI informant. Martin Luther King Jr. was dead. On April 4th, 1969, Fred Hampton Jr., along with William Preacherman Fesperman of the mostly white Young Patriots and Jose Chacha Jimenez of the Young Lords, founded the Rainbow Coalition. Based on the principles of the Black Panther Party, the group fought against police brutality and gentrification and fought for better housing. They didn't just demand better health care for their communities, they opened their own free clinics. They didn't just protest poverty, they modeled their free breakfast program after the Panthers. Remember what I said about the breakfast program. They were building a coalition of power outside the fence. Excuse me. On December 4th, 1969, aided by a floor plan from FBI informant William O'Neill, police stormed into a Chicago apartment at 2337 West Monroe Street and released a barrage of bullets at the bed where O'Neill had pointed out that Fred Hampton, the deputy chairman of the Black Panther Party, would be sleeping. Finding their initial target still alive, the assault team reportedly fired 2 more shots. The informant had left the scene, but Hampton, the iconic leader of the Illinois Black Panther Party, was dead. He was building a coalition of black power outside the fence. From July 18th to the 21st, 1969, the Black Panther Party, the Black Panther Power organized the United Front Against Fascism Conference. Formed around the 10 principles of the Black Panther Party, the conference aimed to develop a political strategy representing the poor, black, oppressed, workers, and people of America. Around 5,000 people responded to the call, including members of the Communist Party USA, the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, Students for a Democratic Society, the Third World Liberation Front, the Puerto Rican Young Lords, the Young Patriots Organization, and various groups associated with the Women's Liberation the Women's Liberation Movement. On December 9th, 1969, aided by a map drawn by government informant Melvin Cotton Smith, the Los Angeles Police Department's brand new Special Weapons and Tactics Team, the SWAT team, released a barrage of bullets at a bed. Smith had informed officials that Geronimo Pratt, the Los Angeles Black Panther Party's Deputy Minister of Defense, will be sleeping there. Pratt was asleep on the floor. After a furious gun battle, Pratt and other Panthers were arrested. 3 years later, Pratt would be in prison for a murder that would be eventually overturned 27 years later. So that was another thing that they would do as well. They would accuse you of a murder that you did not commit and convict you of it, and you would spend, in this case, 27 years in jail. Eddie Conway, who was a member of the Black Panther Party here in Baltimore, The Real News has done interviews, and he has corresponded with them on various news subjects and the like, was in jail for like 40 years for a murder that he did not commit, right? It is possible that more Panthers would have been targeted if not for Alice Faye Williams, a section leader in the Panthers Harlem chapter who successfully led a disinformation campaign to fool the FBI that the Panthers' influence was fading. Her close ties to Pratt eventually made her a target. On April 2nd, 1969, Williams, along with Richard Earl Moore, Limbaugh Shakur, Ali Bey Hassan, Michael Tabor, Eddie Joseph, Abayama Katara, Baba Odinga, Joan Bird, Robert Collier, Sundiata Acoli, Lonnie Epps, Curtis Pell, Kwasi Balagoon, Richard Harris, Lee Berry, Lee Roper, and Kwando Kinshasa were indicted for a Panther plot terrorist plot to bomb 2 New York City police stations and government buildings. Facing 300 years in prison and pregnant, Williams decided to represent herself. During the longest political trial in New York history, she got FBI informant Ralph White and Raymond A. Wood to admit in court that law enforcement officials had created the entire plot. In May 1971, Williams and the rest of the Panther 21 were acquitted of all charges less than a month before she gave birth to her son, Lassane Parrish Crooks. A year later, she changed his name to Tupac Amaru Shakur. Panther leader Huey Newton would face 4 trials for 2 different murders. None of the accusations would stick. Officials would charge Panther founder Bobby Seale with a murder because he happened to be in town for a few hours when the murder took place. Seale would beat the case, but not before he faced conspiracy charges for organizing an anti-war protest. Seale was found not guilty but served 4 years in prison for contempt of court. The conviction was later reversed. During his murder trial, Seale was bound and gagged. The offenses were so egregious that a young attorney organized law school students to document the violations of Seale's civil liberties. The law student's name doesn't matter. It was just some lady named Hillary Rodham. Here's a quote. To become targets of the FBI, it wasn't necessary for African Americans to engage in violent behavior. It wasn't necessary for them to be radical or subversive. Being black was enough. From The Burglary, the discovery of J. Edgar Hoover's secret FBI. Days before the Panther 21 trial ended, the world was enraptured with the boxing match between Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier. On the night of the fight, a group of anonymous white activists broke into the FBI office in Media, Pennsylvania, and stole a treasure trove of documents. As they left to look through the pile of papers, one of the burglars stopped by a payphone and delivered the following statement to a journalist at Reuters. On the night of March 8th, 1971, my father's birthday, The Citizens Commission to investigate the FBI removed files from the Medea, Pennsylvania office of the FBI. These files will now be studied to determine 1. The nature and the extent of surveillance and intimidation carried on this day by the office of the FBI, particularly against groups and individuals working for a more just, humane, and peaceful society. 2. To determine how much of the FBI's efforts are spent on relatively minor crimes by the poor and the powerless against whom they can get a more glamorous conviction rate, instead of investigating truly serious crimes by those with money and influence, which cause great damage to the lives of many people, crimes such as war profiteering, monopolistic practices, institutional racism, organized crime, and the mass distribution of lethal drugs. I would also like to include child sex trafficking in there. Finally, 3. The extent of illegal practices by the FBI, such as eavesdropping, entrapment, and the use of provocateurs and informers. As long as great economic and political power remains concentrated in the hands of a small clique not subject to democratic scrutiny and control, then repression, intimidation, and entrapment are to be expected. We do not believe that this destruction of democracy and democratic society results simply from the evilness, egoism, or senility of some leaders. Rather, this destruction is the result of certain undemocratic social, economic, and political institutions, right? So he's saying that none of this shit is an accident. It's all very, very intentional, right? The documents would reveal that John Edgar Hoover had used his skills to create a 50-year intelligence gathering and surveillance project nicknamed COINTELPRO. The counterintelligence program had targeted every black leader during the civil rights struggles. Its stated goals were to prevent the coalition of militant black nationalist groups because in unity there is strength, prevent the rise of a messiah who could unify the militant black nationalist movement, pinpoint potential troublemakers and neutralize them before they exercise their potential for violence against authorities, prevent militant black nationalist groups and leaders from gaining respectability by discrediting them to both the responsible community and to liberals who have vestiges of sympathy, and prevent the long-range growth of militant black organizations, especially among youth. This is how we know that William O'Neill, Hampton's bodyguard, was an FBI informant. This is how we know that the FBI believed Stokely Carmichael had the necessary charisma to be a real threat in this way, because during the Freedom Rides, he began using the phrase Black Power. This is how we know that the FBI sent a suicide package to Martin Luther King Jr. after Hoover told agents, "We must mark him now, if we have not done so before, as the most dangerous Negro of the future in this nation." And this is how we know about Gary Rowe. In 1960, 27-year-old Gary Rowe joined the Eastview Clavern of the Ku Klux Klan, the most violent chapter in Klan history. In 1961, after receiving a call from Birmingham Police Commissioner Bull Connor and Sergeant Tom Cook, promising his Klansmen 15 minutes of uninterrupted violence with the Freedom Riders, Rowe grabbed a baseball bat and organized the attack in Anniston. When he put the attack together in Birmingham, he used an iron pipe. 2 years later, Rowe helped plan the bombing of 16th Street Baptist Church. Rowe was in the car with Klansmen who shot Viola Liuzzo in Selma and helped spread the rumor that she was involved with black men. So if you don't understand what that means, the government, the FBI, was working with the Ku Klux Klan to enact violence and death upon civil rights activists. I'm going to repeat that for you. The government, specifically the FBI, the United States government, was working directly with the Ku Klux Klan to enact violence and death upon civil rights leaders and activists. But in April 1960, Rowe was just a regular citizen when Barrett G. Kemp offered Rowe money if he would join the Ku Klux Klan. Barrett G. Kemp was a special agent for the FBI. Excuse me. In the book, The burglary, the discovery of J. Edgar Hoover's secret FBI, Betty Metzger writes, more than anything, the Medea files offered the public and Congress an unprecedented glimpse of how the U.S. government watches its citizens, particularly black citizens, wrote Washington Post journalist William Grider in an analysis of all the files the summer after the burglary. Despite the fact that the files had been removed from a very small bureau office in a predominantly white area, they revealed details of the bureau's police policies and actions that made it clear the FBI conducted a massive spying on African Americans, most of it unjustified. The thing that I'm trying to get across to people, pro gamer, is that none of this shit is, this shit did not end, right? We still have the FBI observing black radicals, infiltrating the Black Lives Matter movement. Bro, I DM'd you. Facebook banned me for commenting in your stream. Word, I'll read my DMs in a minute, Yoham. The FBI has known for years that the Ku Klux Klan has been infiltrating local and state level police departments, right? So, you're John, by the way? Right on, John. I'm Kevin. Or you could call me Endless, whichever is easier for you. But anyway, I'm going to continue reading. The overall impression in the Medea files of how the FBI regarded black people was that they were dangerous and must be watched continuously. To become targets of the FBI, it wasn't necessary for African Americans to engage in violent behavior. It wasn't necessary for them to be radical or subversive. Being black was enough. Not all of this information was in the files recovered by the Citizens Commission, but the break-in caused the congressional investigation that revealed the existence of COINTELPRO. For years, Hoover kept all these files sealed and refused to participate in any investigations with state and local agencies except one. While searching through the document, the Citizens Commission found a copy of a floor plan for a Chicago apartment. Like many of the painstakingly detailed papers, the floor plan contained the words COINTELPRO. One of the burglars wondered what it meant. His name was John C. Raines. Right? So, we know, it's common knowledge, or it should be common knowledge at this point, that the government is spying on you in modern times, right? And even that's a misnomer because there are people still alive from when this happened, right? Eddie Conway is one of them. And as a matter of fact, I might go ahead and pull up some, I might pull an Eddie Conway video up for us to look at here. I'll just read this. It's a transcript of the 5-year anniversary of his release from prison. Or I don't have to read it. The video's right there. I'm sorry. So here's the thing, pro gamer. The government spies on you no matter where you are, right? So to use that as an excuse to say that socialist governments or communist governments that are working towards the goal of communism, because I also need to lay it out for everyone watching to make this clear, because a lot of people have misconceptions about the word communism. They think that someone in a previous stream said communism is when the government owns everything and everybody. Communism is when the government spies on you. Communism is when you don't have any personal property or any rights. All that is wrong, and all of that is stupid. All of it is Cold War propaganda. All that is propaganda produced by the exact same government we just read about to keep you misinformed and to keep you not a threat to their power. Communism is literally a stateless, moneyless, classless society. That is what communism is. If you've seen Star Trek, if you're familiar with the concept of how Star Trek functions, Star Trek is literally a communist society, just in the future, right? Now, you need socialism to get to communism because you need a way to move from capitalism to communism The same way you needed capitalism to move from feudalism to socialism, right? You won't want to live in China or North Korea. China is actually pretty nice, my guy. I can't say much about North Korea, but China has a lower poverty rate than America. China is actually a pretty nice place to live. Now, it might not be a great place to live because you're an outsider and they have some particularly xenophobic views of not Chinese people, but China is a nice place to live, and don't let any type of Western propaganda convince you that China is any more authoritarian than the United States, where, just like Edward Snowden revealed, the government can and will spy on you and people 3 hops from you to ensure that you are not a threat to state power, right? So let's listen to Eddie Conway. Let's hear what he has to say. This is from The Real News. They're based here in Baltimore. I recommend checking them out. They offer some pretty good perspective. Watch this.
Welcome to Reality Asserts Itself on the Real News Network. I'm Paul Jay. This is the 5th anniversary of the release of Eddie Conway from prison after 44 years in jail. In 1970, he was framed for the murder of a cop, and over the 44 years in prison, he never stopped organizing. He organized the union. He organized prisoners for their rights. Eddie was a Panther when he went to jail, and he was a Panther in jail. He organized a big contingent of the Panthers while he was in prison. He spent 6 of the first 7 years in solitary confinement, but he spent that time reading as his colleagues in the Panther Party in jail smuggled books to him while he was there. We did a 10-part series, a 10-part Reality Asserts Itself in 2014. And on the 5th anniversary of his release, we're going to pick up and continue that series.
Let me pause this for a second to read that. China is very crazy when it comes to propaganda. They literally have apps with social points, and if you say something against the government, you lose social points, and if you have less points, you can lose your job or your apartment. That's what I don't like. Okay, pro gamer, if you even mention the word union at your job, what do you think happens to you? If you even give an inkling, if you even whisper the word union at your job and your manager hear you, you will get fucking fired. And if you don't go to work, what happens to your house? This is what I'm talking about. This is the Western propaganda. You're saying all this shit about China like it's worse than America, when all that exact same shit is true here in the United States, right? If you mention a union at your job, you will get fired. That's what happens. Look at all the shit that's happening right now with Amazon. While they're doing their best, trying their hardest to make people not unionize. Why? Because if you have a functioning and efficient workers union, your rights as a worker cannot be abused, right? So what do they do with union organizers? Look at what they did in New York. If you are trying to organize a union, you will get fired. If you get fired, you can't make money. If you can't make money, you can't pay your rent. What happens when you don't pay your rent? You're ass out. You're ass out. You're on the street, right? How is that any different from, well, if you don't make the right proper social points, you get fired and they take your apartment away? Explain to me how that's different. Isn't socialism the final proper form of communism No, communism is actually the final proper form of socialism. Communism involves the lack of a state. So socialism has a state, and socialist governments are working towards communism. That's my understanding. I don't have any like collegiate level education on the matter. I literally have only read what little literature I have, things like Gramsci and stuff like that, and like literally just like YouTube videos from people like Black Red Guard. So you don't live in the US, so I can't compare it. Oh, well, I'm sure what country do you live in, pro gamer? Because the reason why I use the United States is because obviously I live here, but the United States is lauded as the most capitalist of you live in Germany. Okay, so that's why you keep bringing up Germany and the GDR. Okay, that makes sense. I assure you that your government in Germany does not want socialism. Not even just because of how shitty the conditions in the GDR were, but because socialism is a threat to state power. Because Germany benefits from imperialism of the global South just as much as all the other countries in the Western world do. But like I was saying, when it comes to the United States, us being the beacon of capitalism, right? The most capitalist country in the world. If you go to your job, which is increasingly less and less mom and pop shops and stuff like that, it's more Amazon, Walmart, these sorts of jobs. If you go to your job and your managers or your owners, because we already discussed how your surplus labor is being stolen from you, right? Germany's awesome. 50% of Volkswagen is owned by its workers. That's good. That's cool. But at the end of the day, that's still, because the country's not socialist, it's still just state capitalism, right? So I'm sure they pay a fucking insane amount of taxes in Germany. I don't know what, I'm not sure if Pro Gamer is old enough to pay taxes, and that's not a knock on them. It's just the general audience of my followers and my viewers on Twitch tends to be in the teenage age group. But I remember you, Pro Gamer, because you had the same name on YouTube. But taxes in countries like that are insanely high, just like in Scandinavia. It's because they're not socialists. They are state capitalists, right? Your excess labor is still being extracted from you for things like war-making materials and upholding the hyper-capitalists in those countries, right? But yeah, here in America, if you mention a union, you will get fired. If you get fired, you cannot produce income. If you cannot produce income, you cannot secure housing. If you cannot secure housing, you end up on the street. And more than likely, when you end up on the street, you will end up in jail, right? Because that's how that works. Read your DM. Where did you DM me, John? Are you, wait a minute. Hold on, stop. Are you John Campanella? Is that you? Where did you DM me? Did you DM me on Facebook? Where'd you DM me, John? No? Because I'm multi-streaming. I'm streaming to YouTube, Twitch, Facebook. I'm streaming on a bunch of different places. You got to tell me where you DM'd me. Otherwise, I'm not going to see it. Inbox. Instagram. Okay. Oh. Wow. I see you, John. Okay. Okay, that's you. Okay. That sucks. I wish I could dispute for that. Are you banned from Twitch or from Facebook indefinitely, or is that, did you just catch a zuck? That's pretty ridiculous, though. That's pretty ridiculous. Because I know specifically people who have used that word have not gotten zucked for it. So you're banned from Facebook. Are you... If there's anything I can do about this, I will. But I don't think that this is... I didn't report you, obviously. Yeah, they think it's hate speech. Yeah. Fight that. If I could do something about it, I will, but I'm not sure there's really anything I can do about this. This seems like you got trolled by bots. And it sucks that I can have a million people in here coming to spam the N-word and say racist shit, but my one actual good viewer uses that word one time and gets banned for it. That's pretty fucking terrible to me. Community standard, yeah. Okay, so yeah, there's nothing I can really do about that. That sucks. Fuck Facebook is correct. I submitted, just as an aside, really quick, and then we'll get to this video. I submitted my application to become a Facebook Black Gaming Creator Program partner. So hopefully I will be actually getting paid adequate amounts of money to do what I'm doing right now in the future. I hope, but even if I don't, I'm still going to keep doing what I'm doing. So anyway, I'm sorry, John. I'm sorry that happened. That's fucking bullshit that you got banned. But I'm glad you can still come here on YouTube. It's only 24 hours in terms of 3 days when you disagree. Wow, that's bullshit too. That's bullshit too. But I stream all the time, 3 p.m. So I'll be here. I'm sorry that happened. Hopefully you'll be able to come back and interact on Facebook. But if not, I'm on YouTube and Twitch. So just don't try your hardest not to get banned on either of those platforms, I guess. But sorry, man. I appreciate you caring enough about my stream to come to a different platform to talk to me after you got banned on one. I appreciate you. But let's continue with this video here.
To do that, here's a little taste of the RAI from 2014. Part 1 was 44 years in prison and still a revolutionary.
When I was in the 4th grade, I attended a school on Mount and Riggs Street, 132 it was named. And we put on a play for Christmas, and we didn't have an auditorium. And we were allowed to go across into the white community to their elementary school.
What up, Lonely Raccoon?
Auditorium, huge school. It was impossible. You could have set almost our whole school into their auditorium, and yeah, I mean the science lab, outside track, swimming pool. I mean it was devastating, you know, for like a 8-year-old, you know, and after that, coming back into the Black community and going
right on,
back
Mr. What's up, bro?
It damaged us so much. We acted out that whole year. In fact, I failed the 4th grade as a result of that experience. I think that was my first contact with institutional racism in Baltimore.
Part 2 was titled Moments of Radicalization.
I ended up as an operating room technician at Johns Hopkins. There was this particular case where this doctor actually performed a mastectomy. That's the removal of both breasts from a woman. At that time, this is 68 now, at that time, it was a 3-hour operation. He had a golf game to go to in an hour's time, and he literally butchered that woman on the table while I was in the operating room.
Black woman.
Black woman in her 50s, and he sawed off her breasts, pretty much. So it was like 10 people in the operating room. And what I didn't understand at the time is I was the only Black person in the operating room. I didn't realize it at the time. Yeah, well, she got killed. He cut her breasts off and she bled to death. He was out in the hallway talking to her daughter and her husband, and he's telling this woman and her husband that he did all he could to save her life. And I went temporarily insane. He's got his golf shoes on and he's got his golf gloves in his hand. And I'm like, you're lying, motherfucker, you know? And I just went off and I ended up hitting him and I knocked him down. And of course, you know, they called security on me, you know, crazy Black man loose in the hospital. I had to end up going to the administration. But I'm like, look, I was in there. He killed her. Y'all need to charge him. It's murder. I'm not letting this go. Y'all fixing this. And called the Afro. I called, you know, I just, you know, and because I knew he should have been in jail.
Part 3, COINTELPRO, Attack on the Panthers.
His name was Warren Hart, and he worked for the National Security Agency and formulated the apparatus that became the Baltimore Panthers.
And the idea is
the Panthers.
the Panther Party will be a magnet to attract militants, and you'll get to know who are the militants.
And get them locked up and get them arrested, and some of them actually disappeared. One of my friends actually was murdered as a result of this guy. He sent him out on a mission that was unauthorized and illegal, and he got an entanglement with the police and ended up getting killed. And then I started investigating the captain and determined that he wasn't who he said he was, because he didn't even live where he said he was living. He didn't work where he was supposed to be working. But at that point, I realized that I was dealing with somebody that was connected and had some kind of police cover. So I actually reported to California, and they sent an investigation team down from like New York. And during the process of investigating, he fled. He fled Maryland, he fled the country.
Now, this is, as we all know now, or anyone that follows this was part of a national campaign, COINTELPRO,
yes,
which involved the National Security Agency, the FBI, and many local police forces.
Military intelligence, et cetera. And,
all targeting black militancy.
Every police force, state police, the local police, et cetera. And of course, we didn't discover that until the mid-'70s. I mean, by that time, they had destroyed the Black Panther Party.
Part 4, the state targeted the Panthers because we were socialists, not because we were armed.
The example the Black Panther Party set in its socialist programs was a threat to the structure of capitalism in America and in the world, in fact. But it was only the Panthers that were working with white groups, and that was working with Mexicans, and that was working with Puerto Ricans, and that was working with the American Indians, and that was working with the Asians. That was the threat. The threat of all of these different people from all of these different communities working together.
Part 5 was titled An American Fascism. Officially, COINTELPRO operated from 1956 to 1971. Unofficially, the program continued under other names and was most recently codified as the U.S. Patriot Act. So this ain't over.
It's the habit of the American government to kind of say, okay, we made a mistake, it's just a one-time thing, we violated people's rights, it won't happen again, you know, we'll put everything in check, and then they'll go back, and a couple of years later, new laws will come out, and those laws will justify whatever that behavior was. And then from then on in, that's no longer a mistake. And the next time it happens, it's something different. Torture, say, for instance, you know, or enhanced interrogation. And at some point, that becomes, well, okay, that's legal.
Part 6, the frame-up.
I was arrested a couple of days after a shooting in which 2 Panthers got locked up, police got killed, and another police got shot.
That's true, John. Racism
and
makes
they
wars.
decided initially to arrest the entire leadership of the Baltimore Panther Party. A police informer had disappeared 6 months before. They had indictments that they were going to execute against us at some point. They then did it as a result of this as a result of the incident.
One of the police officers that was in on arresting the other 2 guys claimed that he had chased someone, and after 2 days identified you.
Yes.
What was about that? What was the issue of that
Well,
identification?
the issue was, and we ultimately went to the Supreme Court about it, was that apparently they took 2 stacks of photographs, and no other photo was duplicated in the stacks, and they put my photograph in both stacks. And and I don't know, they might have already instructed the guy to select that particular picture, but as he looked through stack 1, he didn't see anybody he could identify. He looked through stack 2 and he see the same picture duplicated. He identified me. By rights, at that time, by me being in custody, I should have been put in a lineup.
Yeah, that's why wasn't there a lineup?
Because they wouldn't have been able to make an identification.
Part 7, 6 years in solitary confinement.
The conditions were you were locked in the cell, you didn't have anything, you were allowed the soap, toothpaste, that kind of stuff. You weren't allowed anything else. You stayed in that cell for 23 and a half hours. You came out for a half an hour one day and got a walk. The next day you came out, you got a shower, and it rotated from shower to walk. I'm in there pretty much because I refuse to be abused. I mean, that's really the bottom line.
Part 8, I refuse to be treated like an animal.
A library, I said a library up in the prison. There was like 2,000 people there and no library. And so I got books and I read, and I held political education classes at night for the rest of the guys that wanted to participate. Matter of fact, the whole something like 400 or 500 guys would just be quiet, and they would allow for like political education.
You're actually organizing a local Black Panther organization in the prison.
Yes, and a prisoners' labor union. We figured that the best way to get prison reform was to get a minimum wage.
Part 9 was titled, We Dehumanize Those We Want to Exploit.
To look at the prison experience, what we found was that in order for the guards to have authority, they have to continue to make efforts to dehumanize every person they see in the population. Obviously, the people that are benefiting from that kind of arrangement, whether you're talking about slavery or the multinational corporations today, their bottom line is profit, and their secondary concern is security. Or what they have done is they have used certain segments of the population to incarcerate, prison, and hold people in captivity, and they use other parts of the population to fill up those prisons and to fill up those cells. At the same time, they'll continue to make enormous profits, but they've created something else, divide and conquer. And so it distracts everybody from what's really going on. Both groups of people are being exploited and are being super exploited, but we can't organize and we can't get together and look at the common cause of our problem because we're right there in each other's face.
And part 10 was titled, Why Eddie Conway Joined the Real News.
Well, one of the things that happened in the prison system itself was that we got an avalanche of negative news about the community. It's always somebody being shot, somebody being killed. The news was not only depressing, but it was desensitizing. And eventually, I came down to do an interview with the Real News, and it was kind of like the first time I have actually came in contact with a news media that was talking about
being in
what
prison, Mr.
the problem really was in terms of the economics, in terms of the need to organize on the ground, in terms of understanding the history of the environment movement and so on. And so I volunteered.
I can run that back if you need me to.
From that kind of arrangement, whether you're talking about slavery or the multinational corporations today, their bottom line is profit, and their secondary concern is security. Or what they have done is they have used certain segments of the population to incarcerate, prison, and hold people in captivity, and they use other parts of the population to fill up those prisons and to fill up those cells. At the same time, they'll continue to make enormous profits, but they've created something else, divide and conquer. And so it distracts everybody from what's really going on. Both groups of people are being exploited and are being super exploited, but we can't organize and we can't get together and look at the common cause of our problem because we're right there in each other's face.
So by that he means that the prison guards have more in common with the prisoners than they do with the capitalist owners who own the prison, right? They're both in terms of class, they're both being exploited, just to different degrees, right? It's just that because the prison guard's job and their security entails that they be violent towards the prisoners, right? That's what he refers to by being in each other's face. They come into direct physical conflict with each other, right? But the overarching conflict is all of them versus the capitalistic owner class, right? But they can't see that because they're in constant physical conflict with each other on the day to day, right? So that's what he meant by that.
10 was titled, Why Eddie Conway Joined the Real News.
Well, one of the things that happened in the prison system itself was that we got an avalanche of negative news about the community. It's always somebody being shot, somebody being killed. The news was not only depressing, but it was
extraordinarily educated. Yes, most black people are.
And eventually, I came down to do an interview with the Real News, and it was kind of like the first time I have actually came in contact with a news media that was talking about what the problem really was in terms of the economics, in terms of the need to organize on the ground, in terms of understanding the history of the environment movement and so on. And so I volunteered to work and do whatever I could because I seen that as a very positive entity in America.
Now joining us again in the studio for part 11 of our series is Eddie Conway, 5 years later. Thanks for joining us, Eddie.
Thanks for having me.
So talk about this 5-year span. In the previous interviews, you talked about getting out of prison and kind of being shocked at the state of Baltimore. It looked like a war zone, I think was your language. 5 years later, what do you make of your city?
Well, the city is in trouble, as all urban areas, especially in some poor communities, poor white communities and poor black communities. The process of gentrification is occurring all over the country. Populations are being displaced, sent for the most part into counties now. And unemployment is rapid. The main industries have either offshored or have automated. And even though 80% of the population in Baltimore City is actually employed, some people have to have 2 and 3 jobs. Some people that are employed, working 40 hours a week, are actually on food stamps and other government assistance. That 20% that's been pushed to the side is the 20% that's really suffering because they're unemployed, unemployable, almost no assistance, and
that sounds crazy, pro gamer.
Fighting from day to day just to find a way to eat.
Now, you've been very active in the community. You're not just a journalist and producer and in the leadership at the Real News Network, because I don't know if people at home know this, but Eddie is, we have a sort of a 3-person senior leadership, and Eddie is one of the 3, and then we have a management committee. But you're also very dedicated, very involved in the community of Sandtown, Winchester, where Freddie Gray grew up. So what is the feeling, first of all, of the people there, and then talk about the work you've been doing, because you've been building a community center there called the Tubman House. But first of all, talk about the mood of people, and you know, from that height of resistance, what have people learned? Where are they at?
Well, I think it's safe to say that people are so engaged in day-to-day survival, and a large portion of that community are returning people from prison, from the prison system.
We'll look at this
unemployed.
Savage audits shit after this.
There's no jobs there, so most of the economy is illegal activity. And that struggle creates a level of violence that's probably higher and more intense than any other area, any other zip code in the city. And so before Freddie Gray, that's how it was. Freddie Gray brought out a level of anger because they could recognize their self in Freddie Gray, being beaten and abused like that. That's one thing. It's business as usual now. The oppression is the same as it was before. The organizing have dissipated because the anger is kind of gone. Like, this is what happens to us. This has been happening. We probably can't, we are mad, but we really don't know what we can do about it. We had hoped that these indictments would convict somebody. Everybody walked away, just what we thought, or feared. So the community is pretty much still in the same predicament it was. The stuff that I do down in the community with the Tubman House and the farm project is geared toward trying to change the conditions for young people down there.
Yeah, explain a bit about the farm project.
The farm project is, it was a project of Tubman House in which we decided that if we gave young people an opportunity to get a set of skills, to learn how to use, there's so much vacant land down there, and just neglected vacant land, to how to clean up the land, how to use it, how to grow food, how to sell that food, how to gain a skill. And at the same time trying to help them meet some of the needs in terms of school supplies or whatever we could gather for them, not in the sense of charity, but in the sense of solidarity. We wanted to change the looks that you had on young people's face. They were post-traumatic stress syndrome. They see the police raiding all the time. They see bodies dropping all the time. They don't know when their cousin or uncle or aunt or mother is going to end up in jail or dead.
So it's almost 50 years since you were arrested and went to jail. Mm-hmm. And conditions, not only are they not better, they're probably worse than when you went in 1970. Mm-hmm. How does this make you feel? Like, you're still, you know, active in the Real News, you're active in the community, you're still fighting, you're still organizing. You don't seem to give up in spite of 50 years later, it's worse, not better.
Yes, it's 10 times worse. I'll make that point all the time. I don't give up because I understand people, there's 7 billion people on this planet. You know, there might be tens of millions of people with an invested interest to keep this capitalist system operating on the planet. If we're going to go into the future and create a better world, then everybody that can needs to participate, needs to help, needs to organize. And so I've traveled in those last 5 years around the world, and I've seen people all over the world that's committed to changing the narrative of what's happening.
Unbreakable, yeah.
And so I have faith, and I actually know that another world is possible.
That's Afrofuturism right there.
Beyond
That's Afrofuturism.
It's impossible not to stop the change. The change has to happen because the capitalist system has broken. It's then kind of like exhausted itself. Between automation and cybernation, it's going to change conditions drastically, and people are not going to be employable under that arrangement. But in addition to that, the planet is actually in peril of not being able to support human life with climate change because of these things that's happening now that's actually creating conditions in which my grandchildren might not be able to live on this planet. So young people don't have a choice. They gotta step up, and they are stepping up, and they gotta make a difference. because their back's against the wall.
Well, please join us for the continuation of our series of Reality Asserts Itself with Eddie Conway.
And that's facts. And that's when I talk about Afrofuturism, that's what I talk about right there, because the struggle internally is the struggle against nihilism, right? The idea that life is meaningless, everything is meaningless, we've all already lost. What does any of it matter for, right? But you have to believe that a better world is possible in the future. You have to push forward. You have to continue to fight. And that's what motivates me to do the things I'm doing now. My parents raised me about as far from the environments that you witnessed in that video as they possibly could. So you can just hear in my accent, I'm not from the hood. You know what I'm saying? I was not raised in poverty. My families all came from poverty. Like I've said multiple times on this platform, my grandmother has told me stories literally about her picking cotton when she was a little girl. You know what I mean? And they ran off the plantation. But seeing that kind of stuff and having that kind of knowledge, it's like Promethean fire, right? It changes you. And you can't watch this kind of stuff. You can't take in this kind of information and not be motivated to do something about it. So that's why I try to share all the info that I do with all of you people, because even if you look at it and you still are a capitalist at the end of the day, you still have to find a way to reconcile what you've witnessed with your beliefs. You still have to come up with more and more excuses for why what you've just witnessed is acceptable. Not only is it acceptable, it's the best possible way that we can live and is the only way to move in the future, when it can't be that way because of what Eddie Conway just said. Because it's not equitable to indigenous people, to black people, to poor people, but mainly, most importantly, because the planet will fucking die. The planet will become uninhabitable. The planet will not support human life if we continue down the path that we're going down. This has to change. And it might not be tomorrow. It might not even be within my lifetime. I certainly hope it does, because we are definitely, in terms of climate change, we are absolutely on a timetable here. Absolutely. It's gotta come quick, but that doesn't absolve me of my duty to, at the very least, let other people know what's going on. Even if I personally don't have the means to directly do anything about it, or I don't have the capacity to act and make immediate or drastic change, right? But I can let other people know. I can provide a educational platform for other people to know and make their decisions and try to come together and organize in their specific walks of life, right? So on that note, we're going to watch this guy's shit is called White Lives Matter Rampage. So I already have a feeling.
For a change?
Doesn't matter for me.
White lives don't matter for you?
Look at this.
So you say all lives matter. You would say that. Hey, that's reasonable. I really can't argue with that. I've got no problem with that. Thank you very much, sir. Bing, we just popped over that wall like it wasn't even there.
Listen to this jackass.
There's a guy by a bar. Maybe he wants to get hard. That was fucking lame.
Yeah, pro gamer.
What's
That sounds really, really bad.
Nah, that's a couple.
Germany, just in general, like,
yeah, they're not gonna do fuck.
Just
They're
living
foreign
in
fucks.
those days just sounds.
Let's get this guy sitting in front of this bar.
This guy we're watching right
White
now.
lives matter. Fucking COVID. Takes all my willpower to not destroy that.
This guy is clearly an idiot.
White lives matter. White lives matter. That's definitely a lib right there. She just gave me a nasty look. What am I doing? Telling people white lives matter. What are you doing?
Don't talk to my girlfriend.
I talk to whoever I want in public, bitch. Whoever the fuck I want in public.
Look at this guy.
Fucking lib, mask wearing fucking lib. Look at that fucking libtard cunt.
This guy
Got a fucking fake ass mask too. Look at that cunt. Fake ass mask matches your fake ass car, you bitch.
3,500 almost.
Your boyfriend has a problem.
Fucking chromosome.
Your boyfriend has a fucking problem.
That was a rough
You have a fucking problem.
I do I? Fuck you and your mask. Here we go, guys. Libtards. There we go. Woo!
I hope this guy gets his ass beat. I hope
Libtards.
he
What
watches
about you,
this guy
sir?
get
You
his
a
ass beat.
libtard too? You a libtard as well? Hard man. Fuck you, bitch. Sit in your fucking car and suck your own cock, motherfucker.
On Grand Theft Auto, I don't hope we
go.
get. I don't.
We
wish
triggered a
violence on anyone. I
boyfriend.
can't- yeah, that's
So
not
I guess
skill,
couples
that's
are
fun.
good, huh? Couples are good. Fucking couples are good.
This guy
Yes.
is deranged. This guy is. Seems like he's got issues.
There's the crows. We always trigger crows on this channel. That's been a theme from the very first video. We always trigger fucking mad crows. Usually that's at dawn or something. But I guess even in the afternoon or whatever time it is now, we trigger the bastards.
This man is doing God.
That's kind of elderly couple.
This is gonna end up bad. LOL. Invasion.
Hey, let's go down. There's part of this area that's very ethnic, let's say.
Oh my God, dude.
Let's head over that way. That dude's asleep. We won't fuck with him.
Nah, you were right on the money, pro gamer. This guy is
White lives matter.
absolutely deranged. This guy is
He
absolutely
gave me an
deranged.
affirmative fist, then he sort of chuckled. Oh, I wish I could have caught this lib. It's just got in that car. He's a long hair.
Nah, I don't want to comment, honestly, because I'm just gonna
White lives matter! White lives matter! White lives matter! I'm here as a black man to tell a smirking libtard that white lives do indeed matter. And there's nothing wrong with that, because it's okay to be white. White lives matter! White lives matter! He gave me a nasty little smirk.
This
Got my
is
attention.
Savage Audits, apparently.
White lives matter.
This guy is got some
White lives
issues.
matter, sir. It's okay to be white.
I'm not gonna give him any more views or clicks, honestly. Sheesh. He might be black, like that dude fucking Yaniv that tried to excuse why he can use the word coon because his fucking grandfather's black or some shit like that. He looked like he had like he looked like he got a little teeny bit of melanin in his blood. You know what I'm saying? You can imagine him going to a black neighborhood? Nah, he won't do that. He won't do that. He will absolutely not do that. He knows better. He's only going to go to the quote-unquote libtard neighborhoods. Number one, because those are the safe neighborhoods where he knows that people will not respond. Just look at what we just saw on the stream. He was only going after women and shit. The dude's clearly a coward. But he's not absolutely not going to go to any black neighborhoods or any neighborhoods where someone might actually physically attack him. What does he gain? I mean, he had 3,500 followers. There seemed to be a lot of people jumping in his chat. He got me to go in there and watch for how many seconds I watched, to downvote and comment shit. You know what I mean? I gave him engagements like a dumbass. So he at least gains that. I'm sure he's YouTube partner. I'm thinking I might try to report his stream. You were gone for 5 seconds. What the hell happened? Yeah. I got no excuse for that. Pro Gamer told me about this crazy guy screaming white lives matter and shit at people, and yeah, that's what we ended up with. I think I'm gonna close out the stream because we're coming up on 2.25 hours. So I wanted to talk about Triumph chairs. Now, for some of you that have been following me for a long time, Report Raid, yeah, what was it, Savage Audits? Let me look it back up. Yeah, Savage Audits. Oh, naturally, this guy's on BitChute. Oh my god. Why is America like this, dude? Like, why? I don't know. But yeah, it's Savage Audits. If you want to report him, please do. Please mass report him. Don't brigade him because that's against TOS. I can't make you guys like talk shit to him or anything like that. But if you want to mass report him, absolutely do it. He deserves to be deplatformed. His channel's not even coming up. This is his Twitter. We'll go to his YouTube. America is crazy, yes. He might have already gotten banned. So yeah, I'm just reporting him. Anyway, so Triumph shares. So some of you who might have been a follower or viewer of mine for a while may have noticed back in like around this time last year, actually, in like March, Aprilish, maybe around the beginning of COVID, right before the start of COVID. Yeah, there's nothing wrong with what you said, John. I don't think there's anything wrong with what you said. It's just that the bots, like I said, so I'm going to tell this story really quick. So I am actually currently banned from Facebook on my personal profile as well. The reason for that is because I did a stream where I played Mortal Kombat and someone from Australia came in to spam the N-word, right? So naturally, I'm going back and forth with this Australian dude. I had posted a clip of it on my Facebook, and the caption had something along the lines of like, "This is why I hate Australians," or something like that. And naturally, because it said "I hate Australians" in the title, the bot crawler found that and decided that it was hate speech. And I got banned for that for 7 days. So anyway, Triumph chairs. I'm going to talk about this and I'm going to end off the stream. I'm going to take questions if you guys have them because I always do that naturally. But Triumph chairs, if you saw my stream around this time last year, maybe a month or two later than that, you would see that I was excited about getting a sponsorship from a company called Triumph Chairs that apparently at the time I believed produced, shipped, and sold chairs of the gamer variety, you know, the chairs that look like they belong in a sports car. You could get them custom embroidered with custom vinyl stickers, all that type of stuff. So when I had done a little bit like cursory research into this company, and I'm thinking that this company only became a scam company because COVID screwed their pyramid. But when I did just a cursory knowledge, like just a cursory Google of them, I discovered that, yeah, this is a pyramid scheme. I am sponsored. They want to sponsor me. However, I have to buy my own share at only like a 15-20% discount, something ridiculous like that. So I have to spend like $350 on my own chair that's supposed to be for my sponsorship, right? Then I get an affiliate link. And the only time I get a free chair is when I sell 3 chairs to other people, right? So clearly this is a pyramid scheme. I apologize to my friends for even infecting their newsfeed with the fuckery and moved on, hoping that my friends and other people would know, at least my audience would know well to leave well enough alone. Don't trust this company. Yet here we see when you Google search Triumph Chairs, the first search is the first result is Twitter, right? But the second and third are their Better Business Bureau profile and the complaints on their Better Business Bureau profile. When you scroll down after their Instagram and their Reddit is their Scam Pulse link, right? Now, apparently, if we go to their complaints, we've seen that. Here's one. I purchased a chair and I have contacted for a refund. I never received the product or the refund. I purchased a chair and never received the product, the refund, or been contacted. This is the recurring theme. People saying basically, I sent them money. They sent me nothing. When I asked for my money back, they did not send my money back, right? So clearly, this is a scam. If we go to YouTube, this is, you have some reviews because there's people that do unboxings. They would reward you for doing unboxings of their stuff. But here you see warning. Here, second video, try it. Twitch affiliate sponsorships are a scam. Do not join these companies. And Triumph Chairs is one of them.
If you're watching this video, you're probably a small streamer like myself. Maybe
Triumph Chairs is a scam. Oh, that's me. How I got scammed by Triumph Chairs, right? Be careful with Triumph Chairs, right? So if you are another small streamer like me, and I'm going to go here because we're about to close it out. If you are a small streamer like me, I consider myself a small streamer. My audience is only about a dozen people, only about a dozen recurring viewers, less than 1,000 followers at this point. Do not do any type of business with Triumph Chairs. To the best of my knowledge, you cannot even access their website now because their website has been taken down. Their Twitter has not been updated. Their Instagram has not been updated. I want to believe that prior to me actually going into all the stuff, like with COVID and stuff, they were revealed not necessarily as scammers, but as not particularly high quality, right? The chairs that they were using, that they were selling as their high quality chairs, were actually mass produced chairs from some Malaysian or Chinese company, I believe, or whatever, that you are paying like $400 for the chair, but Triumph Chairs, the company, is paying pennies on the dollar for these chairs, right? They're spending like $50 to $100 to $150 on each chair and then selling them to you for $400 a piece, and then convincing you to sell these same overpriced shitty chairs to your friends, right? That's the pyramid scheme. So this was before COVID, and I am led to believe, just in my own intuition, I have no evidence of this, that as a result of COVID and the supply chain being disrupted from that, and also as a matter of people just not being able to afford overpriced $450 shitty RGB chairs anymore, they have resorted just to scamming. People would make orders that would not be filled, right? So the chairs apparently don't have logos on them, and neither the boxes they come in. LOL. Yeah, of course. Yeah, because they're shitty mass-produced chairs that are marked up for that company to make a profit. Capitalism 101, right? So that's all I got for today. I might play some games a little bit later on tonight. No promises, because I got some stuff I got to take care of behind the scenes. If I don't game later tonight, tomorrow, what's tomorrow? Friday? I believe I would like to play either some Hunt or some Valheim with Sock, Mr. Green, and my cousin Kuma. We'll see how that goes. But, and of course, it's at the same time, same place. 3 p.m. New York time. That's Eastern Standard Time. Come through. It's lit. I will be here. So, thanks, Joe Snyder, for the like. You caught me just about to end the stream. Thanks for watching, everyone. Thanks for the likes and the stars. Shout out to Brittany Schultheus for the stars. Shout out to Comfy Crown. Shout out to John. I'm sorry you got banned on Facebook. I'm sorry. Facebook sucks. And that's my mother coming in the house. Shout out to Fade for always being a homie, always modding. Shout out to Mischievous Raccoon. Thanks for always coming out and supporting. You're going by Lonely Raccoon now, so shout out to Lonely Raccoon. Yeah, anyone I'm forgetting, I'm sorry, but I love you and I appreciate you and I appreciate your support all the same. But that's all I got for you for today. I appreciate y'all. Be safe. And Pro Gamer, shout out to you. Can I answer? What's your question? I'll answer it really quick before I go. Do I have more black or white friends? Is that what you asked? I would say at the beginning of my life, I definitely had more white friends just as a consequence of the school I went to and the neighborhood I grew up in. But later in life, as I got more life experience and my um, decisions as far as who I was going to spend more time around were less hampered by my being constricted by being stuck in schools and my parents and teachers and such kind of deciding who I was going to be around. I gained more black friends. In fact, I actually went out of my way in certain points of my life to be in the company of black people and acquire more black friends. So at this stage of my life, I would say that I have about equal amounts black and white friends. My amount of friends, except for black people, I have more black friends because I am black. But when you look at other racial demographics, probably shakes out to demographics of the country, right? The same amount that you would find anywhere in the country, or at least in my particular state or city or whatever, what have you. I would say my friend makes up the racial demographics of the city that I live in, right? And in Baltimore, it's like 60 something percent black and like 40 something percent white, and then everything else is everyone else. And that's about what my friend ratio is. Do I have Asian friends? I do. In fact, John, my former partner, who is now one of my best friends, if not my best friend, she is Filipina. Her family actually comes from Mindanao. Her mother speaks Cebuano. So, yeah. So on that note, feel free to PM me. You guys have my Instagram, you have my Facebook, you have my YouTube, all of that. Answer questions. If your question's good enough, I'll answer it live on stream the next time I stream, if you stream me when I'm off the stream. But yeah, thanks you guys. I love you all. I appreciate your support. I just want to continue to grow and educate people and just build this platform up so that we can all do work together, right? So thanks for watching.